Welcome to Mysteries and Crime, where we explore the world's most haunting mysteries. Picture this: a warm, humid night in New Orleans, 1918. Jazz drifts through the streets, mingling with the hum of the city. But lurking in the shadows is something far more sinister than the usual revelry. This is the story of the Axeman of New Orleans, a case that's baffled investigators for over a century. Before we dive in, we're challenging you again. Hidden in today's episode is a clue-based question. What piece of evidence connects the Axeman's victims despite their differences? Think you can crack it? Share your answer in the comments below for a chance to be featured in our next video. Now, let's unravel this chilling tale. The Axeman terrorized New Orleans between 1918 and 1919. Leaving a trail of bloody crime scenes and terrified citizens. His method was as brutal as it was puzzling, attacking his victims with an axe, often one he found at the scene. His crimes were unpredictable, his motives unclear, and his identity remains unknown. But what drove this shadowy figure? And why did the murders suddenly stop? Let's take a closer look at this haunting case. In May 1918, the first known victims of the Axeman Joseph and Catherine Maggio were discovered in their home. The scene was a nightmare. The couple had been attacked in their sleep, their throats slit and their heads bludgeoned with an axe. Blood pooled on the wooden floors, the faint scent of iron mingling with the oppressive summer air. Detectives noted a peculiar detail. The axe used belonged to the victims, as if the killer had no need to bring his own weapon. The grim tableau suggested both rage and cold calculation, a macabre signature that would become chillingly familiar. Neighbors described hearing faint groans in the early hours but dismissed them as part of the restless city. The police, however, were stunned. There was no sign of forced entry, no obvious motive. A nearby chiseled panel in the door suggested the killer might have slipped in silently while the Maggios slept. This single, ominous detail would become a hallmark of the Axeman's method. The scene sent shockwaves through the community, igniting a wave of fear and speculation. Who could commit such a heinous act and vanish without a trace? The immediate aftermath of the attack was chaos. New Orleans, a city already grappling with cultural tensions and economic strife, descended into fear. Rumors spread like wildfire. Was this a crime of passion, a robbery gone wrong? Theories clashed as the media sensationalized the story. Headlines screamed of a madman on the loose, stoking fear and curiosity in equal measure. Families began double-bolting their doors, and the sight of an axe in a neighbor's yard could spark immediate suspicion. Grocery stores, especially those run by Italian families, became fortresses overnight. But who were Joseph and Catherine Maggio? They were ordinary people, hardworking, loved by friends and family. Joseph owned a local grocery, and Catherine was known for her kindness and lively spirit. They had no known enemies, and their lives seemed devoid of the drama that often surrounds such violent crimes. Family members recalled no unusual behavior leading up to the tragedy, deepening the mystery and leaving investigators with few leads to follow. The Maggios became symbols of the city's vulnerability. If this could happen to them, who might be next? New Orleans, with its vibrant culture and bustling streets, became a city shrouded in unease. The mix of Creole, Italian, and African American communities that defined its identity also contributed to tensions, making it fertile ground for paranoia. Italian immigrants, many of whom operated small grocery stores, were particularly on edge as the Axeman's crimes seemed to disproportionately target their community. The city's characteristic joie de vivre dimmed under the weight of fear, and once bustling streets grew quieter after sunset. As the months passed, the Axeman struck again and again. A chilling pattern emerged. Victims were often Italian grocers or their families, attacked in their homes at night. Telltale signs included a chiseled door panel and an axe left behind. Yet, there were inconsistencies. Some victims survived, while others perished. Some crime scenes bore evidence of struggle. Others suggested the victims were caught entirely unaware. The city's fear escalated with each attack, and whispers of the Axeman's next move seemed to follow every shadow. Streets were filled with nervous glances, and even the sound of a creaking floorboard could set hearts racing. One of the most infamous incidents occurred in March 1919. Charles and Rosie Cordemelia were attacked in their home, leaving their infant daughter dead and Rosie grievously injured. Despite her trauma, Rosie identified a neighbor, Frank Giordano, as the attacker. But Giordano, an older man of considerable stature, didn't fit the description of the shadowy figure reported at other scenes. This misidentification cast doubt on witness accounts and further muddied the investigation. It also raised questions about whether the Axeman exploited existing tensions to divert suspicion. The incident deepened the public's sense of unease, as even those once considered innocent could now be accused. Law enforcement faced immense pressure. The police combed crime scenes, interviewed witnesses, and followed countless leads. Forensic science, still in its infancy, offered little help. Theories ranged wildly, with some suggesting a deranged lunatic, while others posited a methodical killer with a clear, albeit twisted, purpose. The lack of a clear pattern frustrated investigators and left the public grasping for answers. Detectives worked around the clock, but each fresh lead seemed to dissolve into thin air. The Axeman seemed to be playing a game, always staying one step ahead. A particularly eerie twist came in the form of a letter allegedly written by the Axeman himself. Published in a local newspaper, the letter taunted both the police and the public. The writer claimed to be a demon from the hottest hell, and warned that he would strike again. Yet he offered an unusual reprieve. Homes playing jazz music on a specified night would be spared. The city's love for jazz turned into a desperate survival strategy, with clubs packed and homes blaring music in hopes of warding off the killer. The Axeman did not strike that night, cementing his spectral legend and leaving residents to wonder if the threat had been real or an elaborate hoax. The letter's bizarre tone only added to the sense of the Axeman as both man and myth. As evidence piled up, certain details stood out. The killer's use of found objects, such as axes from the victims' homes, suggested a calculated effort to avoid detection. Witnesses described him as a tall, shadowy figure, but accounts varied, and none led to a definitive suspect. Blood-stained clothing, partial fingerprints, and the peculiar chiseled door panels painted a picture of a methodical, if chaotic, killer. The crime scene seemed to balance a fine line between meticulous planning and frenzied violence, leaving investigators questioning whether they were dealing with a criminal mastermind or a madman. Witnesses provided conflicting accounts. Some swore they saw a man fleeing the scene, while others reported eerie silence. One survivor, Harriet Lowe, spoke of a man with dark eyes, but her description conflicted with others. This inconsistency frustrated investigators and fueled public speculation. Was the Axeman a single individual, or could there have been more than one perpetrator? Each new attack seemed to deepen the mystery rather than provide clarity. The varying testimonies painted a kaleidoscope of fear, each detail adding to the confusion. Theories abounded. Some believe the Axeman was a sadistic killer with a vendetta against Italian grocers. Others speculated he was an opportunistic thief whose motives escalated. Fringe theories suggested connections to occult practices or mob-related hits, adding layers of intrigue to an already perplexing case. What do you think? Could the Axeman's motives have been far more sinister than we know? Share your theories in the comments below, and let's unravel this enigma together. The media played a pivotal role in shaping the Axeman's legacy. Sensational headlines and dramatic retellings fueled public hysteria. While some journalists sought to inform, others leaned into speculation, with exaggerated details muddying the waters of truth. This tension between fact and fiction mirrored the chaos of the investigation and kept the Axeman story alive long after his crimes ceased. The public's appetite for updates became insatiable, with every scrap of information dissected in newspapers and whispered in cafes. Despite the public outcry, no arrests led to a conviction. Theories came and went, suspects emerged and faded, but the Axeman vanished as mysteriously as he had appeared. Families mourned, communities rebuilt, and life in New Orleans slowly returned to its rhythm. Yet, the lingering questions remained. Who was the Axeman? Why did the killing stop? Was he ever caught for another crime elsewhere? Or did he simply fade into anonymity? The psychological profile of the Axeman remains speculative. Experts suggest he may have been a thrill seeker, driven by a desire for control and chaos. Others propose he was a deeply disturbed individual, acting out personal vendettas. The toll on the city's psyche was immense, with fear and suspicion taking root in the wake of his crimes. The case also left investigators questioning their own limitations, as the killer's elusiveness underscored the challenges of law enforcement in the early 20th century. Culturally, the case has left a lasting mark. The Axeman's legend has inspired books, movies, and music, cementing him as a haunting figure in American folklore. His tale reflects the complex dynamics of early 20th century New Orleans, a city vibrant yet divided, resilient yet vulnerable. Even today, the Axeman's shadow looms large in popular culture, a reminder of how deeply a story can embed itself in the collective memory. Forensics has advanced dramatically since the Axeman's time. Modern techniques might have identified DNA, matched fingerprints, or traced the origin of the tools used. Yet the limitations of 1918 technology mean the case remains an enduring mystery. Could new methods someday solve it? Only time will tell. But the Axeman's file remains tantalizingly open to this day. Unsolved leads continue to tantalize. Unverified sightings, forgotten suspects, and unexplored connections hint at answers just out of reach. Were crucial details overlooked, or was the Axeman simply too elusive? The truth may still be out there, waiting for the right mind to piece it together. Each new generation of true crime enthusiasts breathes fresh life into the search for answers, proving that some mysteries never fade. Comparing the Axeman to similar cases reveals eerie parallels. Other unsolved murder sprees, such as the Villisca axe murders, share chilling similarities in method and mystery. These cases underscore the challenges of early 20th century investigations and the enduring allure of the unknown. The similarities also beg the question, could these crimes have been connected? Or is the axe simply the weapon of choice for those consumed by dark intent? As we close this case, let's reflect on its most compelling aspects: the haunting crime scenes, the taunting letter, and the unanswered questions that keep the Axeman's legend alive. Don't forget to answer today's clue question. What piece of evidence connects the Axeman's victims despite their differences? Your answer could earn you a featured shout-out in next week's episode. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.